All right, we're going to call this meeting to order of the Wednesday, March 13th CYMPO Technical Advisory Committee. Members of the public that desire to address the committee are subject to the following. The decision to allow a member or members of the public to speak is left to the discretion of the chair. The person may only speak if called upon by the chair. Speaker's time may be limited at the discretion of the chair. The chair may limit the number of speakers. A speaker shall not be disruptive, nor shall the speaker be disrespectful to the committee or others. Except during the call to the public, a speaker may only address the specific agenda item that is then being discussed. Chair may terminate a person's speaking time for violation of any of the foregoing. Audience members shall not engage in disruptive behavior during our meeting, including speaking when it is not his or her time to speak. Looks like roll call.
Madam Chair Rowich.
Here.
Vice Chair Hughes.
Here.
Member Cherry is absent. Member Marbury.
Here.
Member Reuter.
Here.
Present. Member Roth is absent. Member Garcia.
Yeah.
And the Prescott National Forest seat is vacant, but we have a quorum.
Okay. And we'll move on to item 2, Title VI Policy and Meeting Procedures. Desi?
I will be reading these for Desi today. CYMPO complies with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and related non-discrimination statutes and regulation in all programs and activities. Members of the public may review the CYMPO Title VI plan and submit a self-identification survey by accessing the CYMPO website.
All right, item 3, call to the public. This item is to provide an opportunity for presentation of comments by the public on subjects that are not on the agenda. If you wish to speak, please complete a request for public input card and submit it to CYMPO staff prior to the beginning of the meeting. When recognized, use the podium and the microphone, state your name. Speaker's time may be limited at the discretion of the chair. Do we have any public comment today?
I think online, Leslie.
I don't see anyone online. No, it's only contact Heather.
Okay, then we'll move on to item number 4. Consideration and possible action to approve the February 14th, 2024 regular meeting minutes of the Technical Advisory Committee. Anyone have any comments on the minutes?
Well, I make a motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Executive Director's update. Vinny Gallego.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the Technical Committee. My only announcement is to formally introduce our new ADOT planner, Ruth Garcia. This is day 8 on the job, so I checked. She knows everything there is to know. So we're in good hands. I had the opportunity to sit on the interview panel and interview a lot of worthy candidates, and I will boast that Ruth was my #1 pick. So I'm glad I got what I wanted. Ruth, you want to share a little bit about your background with the group?
Yeah, I can. Hi, everyone. Hi, hello. My name is Ruth Garcia. I originally started with ADOT in our Civil Rights Office, and I worked there for about 2 years until moving over to MPD. And with that, my experience, and I think kind of like what I was speaking with Vinny about and some of the other members here yesterday, my goal really here is to be that extended foot and extended hand from ADOT and to do my best as always to be there for you guys in every way I possibly can. And I kind of explained to him just my goal really is to build that relationship with all of you, to feel confident and comfortable coming to me, to be that person for you. So that's all I would like to say, but thank you.
Thank you, Ruth. Welcome. She is replacing Myrna Bondock, who was our planner for many years. So just real quick for the technical committee and everyone in the room, again, this is a very critical role to the work we do. This is the primary point of contact with ADOT. So a lot of whatever project we end up putting in, she has her eyes on it for approvals. She worked closely with Federal Highways and FTA and all the rules and regulations. So we're grateful you're here in person. We look forward to working with you. And that's all I have at this time. Any questions or comments? Happy to answer them.
Welcome aboard.
All right, moving on, ADOT traffic data update. Leslie Contreras.
Good afternoon, TAC members. As you guys know, CYMPO partners with ADOT for the traffic counts. And so today we have Sandra and Lucas to give a traffic count update. Before that, I would like to thank you guys for submitting your traffic counts this year. As you know, that helps prioritize projects. So thank you so much to you guys and your staff for doing that. And then I'll hand it off to Sandra and Lucas, who are on Zoom or on Teams with us.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Leslie, for an introduction. I just want to make sure that Lucas were able to hear. Lucas, he had some technical difficulties a little bit ago, and he will be speaking right after me. So I just want to test that out before I start. Lucas, can you hear us? Can you say something?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, excellent. Okay, great. Let me first introduce myself. Sanya Kadik Johar, ADOT MPD Traffic Monitoring Section. I'm here to provide an update on traffic monitoring, update, if you will. And Lucas usually comes from our GIS, HPMS side of the house. And just like me, he provides an update on any topics from that side of the house. So without further ado, let me share my screen. It's just a few slides that we have, and I'm going to do the first few slides, and I'll turn it over to Lucas in I don't know, slide 5 or 6 or so. Can everyone see the first slide? I just need a confirmation. Thank you.
Yes.
Yes.
Good. Excellent. As I mentioned, ADOT always appreciates statewide efforts, COGS and MPOs, and never forgets local member agencies in traffic monitoring activities and traffic collection related activities. But I spoke to someone the other day and I said, that's half a job done. We collect the traffic data, but if it's sitting on someone's server, what good, what use do we have out of it? So collection is half the job done the way FHWA considers it, and quite frankly, the way ADOT considers it. As we, as in ADOT, we're federally regulated by 23 CFR, Code of Federal Regulation, Part 500, Subpart B, to have a statewide traffic data collection program. So I always say we are mandated. So let's work with our COGS and MPOs and local or through local member agencies to make the best out of it. So we really do appreciate, I personally do appreciate Vince, Leslie, Allison, and anyone else, Ian for that matter, when they come out and say, hey, we'd like to meet, we'd like some training on this and that. Being proactive, being open, being a great communicator, that's what makes this relationship, mutual relationship, healthy, and that's what inevitably turns into progress and makes your traffic count program a success. Even though we're mandated by it, we want to make the best out of it, right? The right-hand side of the slide is where I've tried to picture or visualize rather, and put some numbers on the board for us. And I didn't do year 2022, 3, and 4 by some chance. I only know these years because I've had this position since year 2022. So I plotted year for traffic counts from 2022, 3, and 4. Data from 2022 and 2023 was pulled, or rather report has been created, and the numbers are represented here mid-collection year. So for 2022, it's been June. For 2023, it's August. And for 2024, we're looking at December data, even though it says January 2024, because that is when I had created the report. But regardless of when we pulled the numbers, this is what I wanted to point out. We'd like to see these two trends. We'd like to see the upward trend in current counts. So you can see that there's an upward from 2023 to 2024. And we'd like to see, even if it is very conservative, downward trend in missing counts. And even though, like I said, it's conservative, it represents the work. And work in progress is never to be neglected and should never go unnoticed. We're looking at 45% of traffic counts in your region is current. We're looking at about 37% of those, not of those, 30% of counts are missing. And I would like to never forget to say that missing counts, as I've been always told, it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to see where they're at and why are we missing them. And when I took a position over, I've been taught there's various reasons for missing counts. And I always keep encouraging with one main reason: locations that have been counted but not shared. And I always go with that reason. There are a few other reasons. If you had functionally classified roads, it could be that. It could be traffic sections that have been counted, but that have otherwise not been counted or are not current. Reference equation issues. But I always say I've been privy to Ian, is it Mattingly or Mattingly? He's some counts across. And I always say we're probably sitting, UCG had promised they were going to turn those counts in. And when I say turn those counts in, I mean log into MS2 and plot them and connect them to location IDs they belong to. So I bet, if not all of those 202 counts that are missing are in those files from Ian, ready for UCG to finish that job. I always also say that this communication and proactive communication from Vinny, from Leslie, and in the future, whomever is going to communicate and be point of contact for ADOT, is really crucial in making sure that the progress continues and that we, ADOT, support you in any way we can. And I'm not going to read them aloud, but ADOT support is on the bottom of this slide. We can always read that. The next slide, 2 points. I'm not going to read it all. 2 points. On the left-hand side, we've got traffic count coordination app, which is link on the left. In there, if you have folks, and I just know that you recently had Leslie as a new point of contact. If you have new folks replacing former folks in former roles, that is the area where you can report who the new point of contact is. And you don't have to do that because we just spoke to Leslie and Vinny last week or so, so we know. But what also you can do is, if you know your member agencies have 2024 data collection schedules that you know they have and would like to share with us, that link is a place where they can go in and attach their schedules. Okay. Now, the right-hand side, second link, I had placed a new link to replace this link on the right-hand side. So the second link on the right-hand side is being replaced with a link in the chat. And that is, as of yesterday, and Lucas, correct me if I'm wrong, We've done some updates to the gap map, which is since Leslie, Lucas, and I had met a week or so ago. Please, I've sent an email yesterday as well to all of the COGS and NPOs. Play in this new gap map and let us know if you have any suggestions, and do let us know how we can improve that too. And I'm going to really breeze through the last slide here. These two surveys. The first one tells us a lot, or shouldn't even say a lot, everything about your count program. I usually send the first survey out when I'm discovering about the new member agency out there. The second link, we've been doing last year or so, an inventory of all intersection cameras that are out there. To do an inventory, but the second is to better support emerging data trends out there, Light and such. And we, ADOT, we offer a support to COGS and NPOs member agencies who would like us to, I guess, train them or in a way as to how to make sure that the data collected via those intersection cameras are downloaded or shared or integrated is the right way to say it, integrated into MS2's TCDS and traffic movement count modules. Because really, that data through those intersection sensors does represent the best and most comprehensive source of traffic data available. And that is all I had before I stop sharing. If I have any questions, you can ask me, or if you want to hold the question after Lucas, I am okay with both of those. And again, thank you very much for having me.
Any questions? Okay.
Okay. I do want to be mindful of everyone's time today. I probably need about 5 minutes for my part of the presentation. Is there enough time for that?
Yes, please proceed.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me share my screen. Okay, are you able to see my slides okay?
Yep.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So, so I'm going to switch gears. We're going to be talking about certified public mileage. I know many of you likely already know what this is, but it's a good review because it is a very important metric for us. So CPM is the total mileage of all public roads in the state. And public roads are actually defined in the Code of Federal Regulations as roads that are passable by a four-wheel standard passenger car. So think of driving the road on in a Honda Civic, for instance. If it can drive it, great. If you need four-wheel drive, if you need high clearance, then no, it can't be considered a public road. It also does need to be open to the general public. It can't have any kind of restrictions like gates or anything like that. It can't be a service road or something along those lines. The only exception to this rule is if you have any kind of weight, size, or classic restrictions for like trucks or something like that, that's okay. We can still consider those roads public should those come up. We do include Bureau of Indian Affairs roads, as well as some private roads in very rare cases, as long as they're publicly accessible and they do meet the other criteria, then we can in certain cases consider those part of CPM. And the reason why this is such an important metric and why we talk about it with you every year is that this metric does influence our federal funding. So we want to make sure that it's as accurate as we can possibly get it. In this graph, you can see between 2020 and 2021, we had about 7,700 mile increase in our CPM statewide. This was not because we built 7,800 miles of new roads in the state. This is because we worked with organizations, including yours, to check and make sure we were counting all the public roads correctly. It turned out we found a number of public roads that should have been included in the CPM, but we weren't capturing them before. And so we really look to you to help us to check our data and make sure that all the information is correct and we are identifying all the correct roads. And so in an effort to try and continue that, we do have this AZGO We Love Your Input tool. This is an online tool that's available. If you get a copy of these slides, this link will take you to the website. Through this tool, you can view and approve your agency CPM. And this isn't just for the for your MPO. This is also for your individual local agencies as well. The cities themselves can go into this tool. They can review the CPM, review the public mileage, and make sure everything looks correct. It also gives you the ability to notify us of any changes either in CPM ownership or maintainership of these roads. So this tool is a very streamlined way to provide this information and let us know, are we counting the road towards CPM correctly, or a road was recently switched ownerships or something like that. You can do that all through this tool. This tool does require a login. The login is completely free to get, and coming to the CPM validation tool story map, there's instructions on how you can get an account for yourself. And so if, just to very quickly demonstrate, if I wanted to validate a CPM, I can come into the tool and there's this agency summary tab on the left-hand side. When I click it, I get a window that asks me to select an agency. So in this case, you see I'm selecting Casa Grande, the city of Casa Grande specifically. And I'll go and click load agency streets. And when I do that, I do get a breakdown of the CPM based on functional classification, but most importantly is this number down here, 423 miles is the total CPM for Casa Grande. And if this looks correct, I would click approve mileage. And that just notifies ADOT that I've looked at this and this looks correct for me. If I want to make a change, say to ownership or to CPM, what I can do in the map is click on a specific road. And when I do that, I'm presented with this table at the bottom with a suggested change button. When I click on that, it'll open up a wizard that will walk me through a series of 4 steps, asking multiple questions. It's actually very quick and easy to do. The most important question down here in regards to CPM is this checkbox here. If I check this on, this road would be counted towards CPM. And then when I'm done, the changes are submitted to ADOT, as well as other relevant stakeholders. And if we need to, we can also get FHWA involved as well. That's usually if we're looking at like functional classification changes, which can also be done through this tool, something along those lines. But once everybody's approved, everybody's good with it, then we can make it official in our system. And then I just want to spend a very quick minute to talk about Meyer. So this is a new federal report that's going to be coming out in 2026. It stands for the Model Inventory of Roadway Events. And right now, there's nothing that we're asking for anyone to do. This is more just an introductory that this is coming down the pipeline, and we'd like to just let you know about it for now. Meyer was designed specifically to support traffic safety. And what they call the fundamental data elements, or FDEs, these are the specific elements that they're going to want included in this report. Almost all of them are already included in HPMS. So it's things like ownership or functional classification, those kind of things. We're already recording that in HPMS, so we would just copy those into the Meyer report when it's ready to go in a couple years. The one big difference, though, that this report is going to have from HPMS is it is asking for traffic volume counts on all public roads. That's including local roads as well. But we don't have to go out with a traffic counter on every single local road. We can estimate those counts wherever possible. There may be instances where we might need to get a traffic count on either a local road or a road that's nearby in order to better estimate what that traffic count is going to be for other local roads in the area. And we can certainly coordinate with you on how to do that. Again, we're not looking at doing anything this year for sure. But this is going to be coming up probably next year in order to prepare for this report. And I will point out that FHWA is still drafting the specifics of this report. So there's a lot of arms waving in the air about this, but we did want to at least bring up the idea of this traffic volume count on local roads to you. And with that, I'll go ahead and end the presentation. Again, thank you for the time today. My name is Lucas Murray with the MPD HPMS team. And then if you have any traffic questions, please send them on to Sonia, and she can manage those from there. So thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Sonia and Lucas. Does anyone else have any questions for them? All right.
Quick one, can we get a copy of the presentation with all the links in it?
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes, I can send that over to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on to item number 7, regional development updates. Michael Lamar.
Yeah, I think we're going to start with Pedro talking a little bit about regional transit.
Sure. Yeah, I want to provide you, so it's a pleasure to be here with you all, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. I'm the transit manager, Pedro Rodriguez. I'm just going to give you all a brief update on transit here with the Avalon Regional Transit System. Next slide, please. Next slide, please.
You all are on mute.
Can you hear us now, Heather?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. So this is the latest ridership data. This is Q2 in the gold for year 2. It looks like we're going to surpass the 9,000 forecast, which is great. I think we'll be at about 1,000 more than Q1, which you know, this is just telling of the great need that we have in Prescott Valley for public transportation. We haven't plateaued yet, so that is very telling. We're still trying to find where that is. It's a good problem to have. Next slide, please. And then here's a little bit more on some of the service statistics of the service. We have, since inception, we have a little over 34,000 rides, so in a good year and a half almost. The average ride distance is 3.2 miles, average pickup wait time a little over 20 minutes. Wheelchair accessible rides a little over 1,600 now. And the nice thing about the technology that we have is that you can rate the rides. So out of that 34,000 trips, obviously not all of them have replied with a rating, but out of all those trips, this is what we're averaging. It's 4.9 out of 5, which is fantastic. There's, I think, very few transit agencies that have that kind of rating. Right. The other piece that we're working on are shared rides. So we need to increase our pooling of rides. We're hoping up to 50%. That's the next thing that we're working on. So we're going to tweak the system a little bit more and try to stretch the service as much we can. And obviously that's only going to help with the cost per ride that we've been sharing with you all. Next slide, please. And then a little bit on the Prescott service information. So we just started March 4th last week on the Prescott service. These are just a couple of things that I want to share with you. I think it's a little too early to get you, maybe like the previous slide with all those service statistics. It's a little too early for that. But here we have a couple of items that I wanted to let you all know. So in the first week, we've almost doubled Prescott Valley's ridership, which, again, it makes me nervous, but a good problem to have. Next thing is the first trip was to the VA, which is pretty telling. I think right now the VA is probably a third of all the trips that we've experienced. So that's pretty telling there. We're also working on establishing a bus yard in Yavapai County. Dan Cherry's been fantastic to work with in that partnership, and just wanted to say thank you to him and his team for supporting us. We hope to move into the new facility here in the next couple of weeks, so we're excited for that. And that is basically to support the service here in Prescott or the new zone in Prescott, rather than traveling all the way from the Prescott Valley headquarters and all those miles that add up, time, resources. So we hope to be as efficient as we can with this service. And that's all I had for you today. Thank you so much.
My turn, ma'am. Let Leslie to load up my slide. So I could start by telling you guys we had what I think was an excellent meeting last week with management and leadership in the county, city of Prescott, Prescott Valley, and Chino. I don't know that anybody from Dewey was there. It would have been good to have somebody from Dewey, maybe going forward, about brainstorming that, one thing that we kind of are working more at CYMPO than we ever have is acknowledging that there is maybe there is a place for us to work on regional projects that have a transportation component but transcend transportation and also go into other arenas. Mainly because there's not a ton of regional cooperation in this community, and if we could service a place for better facilitation of regional issues and discussions, we're more than willing to do that. So anyway, back to the meeting we had last week. We hosted I guess it was a brainstorming facilitated meeting where we talked about some ways we can work on regional environmental initiatives. We really, as a collective CYMPO area, we have some amazing environmental assets that, as visitors and users of the system don't really care if it's a Chino asset or a City of Prescott asset. They just appreciate things like Del Rio Springs and Glass Dells Park and those types of things. So one of the areas that we really are focusing a lot of attention on is CYMPO having a leadership role in planning things like the Del Rio Springs plan, working on an ecotourism plan for the whole region. Again, we get visitors here from all over the world, and they could give a rat's rear end about if it's a Dewey asset or a Prescott asset. They just come here to enjoy the natural environment. So if we had an ecotourism plan for the region, what would that look like? How can we cross-market it? How can we get the word out about it? And just invite people to the CYMPO region, not necessarily Prescott or Prescott Valley. So anyway, the discussion was really good, and I would let Vinny or Bren contribute to this dialogue as well. I think it was a good first step. It was hosted at the Prescott Valley City Hall, and I think that, and then bringing you guys up to speed, and I don't see where you guys would have any problem with this as a concept. Our role in this arena is probably just going to grow. Is that fair, Vinny? And
yeah, no, I appreciate Michael's lead into it, and yeah, acknowledge we had a room full, anchored by the various managers. We had Tyler Goodman and Joe Baines from Prescott, Gilbert Davidson from Prescott Valley, Cindy Blackmore from Chino Valley, and Maury Thompson from the county as the manager, and a number of their staff, and to me, it was incredibly just positive to come together. And to echo Michael's point, each of our municipalities have their own structures, but we're a unique organization in that we bridge communities together. And, we're at our 20-year mark of bringing the region together. And as I've mentioned before, there's other regional initiatives that have really struggled over the years. So we're proud to keep plugging along, and if we can, in Michael's sentiment, if we can provide that facilitation, then we're more than happy to do that. And so far, everyone's staying at the table. We realize that there are some initiatives, that are sparking more interest lately by the greater public and those in leadership. And, our role, as with anything, is that you all around the table and your citizens are the authors of what we do. CYMPO doesn't come into any plan and say we're going to write it, but it's aspect of the public, of experts, of stakeholders, of key leadership to help develop a plan. So I think, again, very positive. It's very early on, so we'll see this roll out. And Michael and I talked this thing through with staff. we do see some, what we would consider low-hanging fruit, if you will, in these bigger topics. You know, when Michael talks about, he's been talking about this for a while, about a regional trail plan. And also through our EMAC, our environmental group, we've been talking about wildlife corridor studies and plans. You know, in my opinion, humbly, I would say both of those, I would hope, are on the less controversial end of things of planning. And those are things that, again, we can facilitate with all of our groups in the community, the different interest groups, the different staff, and bring them together and take inventory on what we have and what we don't have. And again, work together to determine a plan moving forward. So, you know, I think hopefully you'll start to see a bigger picture. But I do think with Michael's leadership and Bryn's leadership, I do think in the next few months you are going to see really take off both trails and wildlife corridor plan. We work very closely with Game and Fish, and Jeff Gagnon and others have acknowledged, due to their lack of resources, that the data they have is older, and they would appreciate a partnership to help update that information. And clearly that is vital to our planning process. So again, we see an opportunity for that. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, just one more minute on my end before we go on to the next one. I mean, wildlife corridor plan is a perfect example of an issue that is going to transcend jurisdiction. This community is sensitive to wildlife issues, and if we could have a plan that addresses some of these issues when we do transportation projects, specifically road projects, I think it's beneficial for the whole region and every jurisdiction. And then just the other thing, and with it, to follow up on what Vinny said about it, trails are fantastic if they have connectivity. In a lot of instances, we have tremendous connectivity already, but where there are gaps in the connectivity, having a regional organization like CYMPO look at filling those gaps makes a ton of sense to us. So. Anybody have any questions, comments, cheap shots?
I got one.
You got a cheap shot? Nice.
I will say this is, I like hearing this because I was talking with our development services director, and as we're implementing our general plan, one of the issues that's come up is how to deal with some of the, especially up in the Del Rio area where the state park is going in, and on the eastern side of town that's not really developed yet, that gets almost towards Prescott Valley. Concerns for how to develop that with, and it gets into transportation planning for that, and also open space. And one of the big concerns a lot of the citizens have in Chino Valley is those wildlife corridors, especially for the pronghorn, that sort of thing. So any help we can get, we would appreciate, even if it's just maybe getting the right name at Game and Fish from someone that has those studies and things like that. So I would welcome that.
If I could just add too, I mean, I think what Michael and I are hopefully alluding to is there's discussions to a much bigger approach. But I think what we're trying to highlight today is hopefully those things that, you know, taking a bite out of the elephant. But we definitely, as regional planners and leadership, see, you've already alluded to some things, Frank, open space is a major thing. So when you look at the environment as a whole, when you look at conservation as a whole, we realize, and I don't want to in this time ignore those things, but realize for all of us, these are much, much bigger topics. But please know there's an awareness of that. So I'm glad you mentioned that. And I do think, again, we have an opportunity to come together and work towards a much greater and a much more comprehensive plan.
I think Michael makes a good point that when people come here from other places, or even people who live here, they don't care if the trail's in PV or Chino or Prescott. They just want to get on a trail with their bike or their kids or their horse and enjoy what this whole area has to offer. So I think your point's well taken. It's a regional opportunity to look a little bit outside the box of what we traditionally look at as transportation, you know, paved streets, and start looking at other ways that people connect in this community. So I appreciate the efforts, and I think you're on the right track.
Appreciate that.
Are there any other comments?
I guess I would only make a comment that the funding, the flexibility in federal funding right now really plays to this issue, really gives us the opportunity to try and expand on these environmental initiative. So, you know, we're grateful, but we got to make hay while the sun shines. Due to the availability of funding and the broadness of the approaches in those bills.
All right, if we don't have any further discussion, we'll move on to item number 8. Review, discussion, and possible action to recommend approval to amend the 5307 Transit Activities Intergovernmental Agreement with the Town of Prescott Valley. Michael Lamar.
Yes, Madam Chair. This morning, you might have received an update from, is it Prescott Valley's Attorney's Office regarding a 5307 Transit Activities IGA tweaking or change. If you haven't had a chance to review it, I can kind of give you the highlights. In the initial agreement, it was, the projects listed were the State Road 69 Master Plan and Active Transportation Plan, and something called a Coordination Plan. Basically, what this amendment will do is the projects will be the 69 and the active transportation, which are already in progress, and replace the coordination plan with transit planning. It gives us a little bit more flexibility in terms of spending money on transit-specific projects. And this was necessary to ensure that the reimbursement requests with the FTA go through without a hitch. So you can see the process update. As I said, it was reviewed by PV Legal, and I think they're pretty copacetic with it. Is that, Allison, your takeaway? And it's pending town council approval and then CYMPO executive board approval. I would assume that all of these things will be completed by the end of this month. If you have any questions, we can walk through the IGA amended in detail, but I think I've hit on everything that is of relevance at this point.
Michael, if I may.
Yeah.
So in addition to the transit planning, it's more like transit activities to make the agreement more open, more flexible to suggest planning, operating, and capital activities. Right now, it's very specific to certain planning activities, and so expanding the scope is really going to help out in terms of the things that we can support the various municipalities, in this case, the town of Prescott Valley with transit. So
that's a good add, Pedro, because we're now in the transit business. Getting beyond planning and having things that are relevant to an implementation are valuable too.
All right. Is there any further discussion? The chair will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to recommend the executive board approve 5307 Transit Activities IGA with Town of Prescott Valley.
A second?
I second.
Other second? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. Item number 9, review, discussion, and possible action to recommend approval of the Pioneer Parkway Trailhead Intergovernmental Agreement. Michael Lamar.
Again, yay me.
You're up.
As some of you know, there is a project that will include construction of a new trailhead facility, including improvements to the Pioneer Parkway, a driveway, a parking lot, and a restroom. This is a collaborative project between Yavapai County, the City of Prescott, and CYMPO. I think it's an exciting, good project. This kind of dovetails about some of the things we talked about earlier about regional cooperation on environmental initiatives. This is a kind of a microcosm of that, if you will. It was already approved by the county, and it's pending approval of the city for the 26th and the CYMPO executive board on the 27th. So I think this is a good news story that this is moving forward.
You're looking for a motion from us on
Do
this?
you guys need a motion on that? Giving them, okay.
Yes, okay. Any further discussion?
Yes, I do have a question. And everything, all the monies are budgeted for this?
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
That's it. Oh, yeah. Let's see, item 9, there we go. Make a motion to recommend the executive board approve the Pioneer Parkway Trailhead IGA with Yavapai County and City of Prescott.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, item 10, review, discussion, and possible action to recommend approval of the draft applications for the FY 27-28 Highway Safety Improvement Program call for projects.
Madam Chair, members of the TAC, Allison or Leslie, do we have Mike Blankenship in the meeting?
We don't.
I don't see him.
So we're missing our key person. I guess let me just be super brief on this, Madam Chair. We may have to table this. But Mike, we have, CYMPO has hired Greenlight Traffic Engineering. Mike Blankenship is your project manager for this. Again, a reminder that he is working directly with all of you on Highway Safety Improvement Program grant, HSIP opportunities. We have a relatively tight window, so I'm a little surprised he's not here. But I do know he has been emailing many of you back and forth. I know I've seen email exchanges between Heather and Mike. And I don't know, Ian, if you've been in contact. You've been in contact, so City of Prescott's been in contact. And I know Dan Cherry's also been in contact. So unfortunately, we weren't able to identify any real projects for Dewey, Humboldt, or Chino Valley, but I do believe each of those other municipalities had a couple projects listed. So what I would probably recommend, Madam Chair, is we table it for now. And if there's any questions, I can answer them, but I know that consultant is working directly with you. I guess my hope today was to approve those particular projects today, but we'll figure out a plan B.
Okay. Make a motion to table this item?
Make a motion to table until whenever.
I'll second that.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Item 11, review, discussion, and possible action to recommend approval to apply for FY 25 congressionally directed spending. Vincent.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the TAC. So we have an opportunity, or CYMPO has an opportunity, along with the local governments. Maybe some of you are familiar with congressionally directed spending. I believe historically, if you've been around a while, I think this goes back to what they would call earmark projects, that the U.S. Senate has discretion over where they open up a pot of funding and they ask for applications of particular projects. I believe going back to Senator McCain's days, it wasn't a thing that he was supportive of, but after that changed, then Senator Kelly and Sinema did change that, I guess, policy, if you will. And they have opened up this program. Again, this is available United States wide. It's based through the Senate office. They put out information though, and I don't remember the exact amount. If I remember from years past, they may have a pot. They estimate, I think, around 20 million or so. Don't quote me on that number if I'm wrong. But what they do is they reach out to the local governments and they say, you know, this is pretty broad, but any opportunities you have that they may be able to fund. So we're talking not only transportation, but it crosses a pretty wide board. I've seen over the years, fire trucks, police vehicles, different types of infrastructure. The funding ranges anywhere from I think 100,000 to a couple $1 million. I think Senator Kelly and Sinema try and spread it out as best they can. Transportation is a unique category. So fast forward to where we are today. I know some of in talking with my fellow managers of the city of Prescott, Prescott Valley, and the surrounding areas, there is consideration for some applications, not on transportation to the best of my knowledge. I think there's some other needs, and I don't offhand know what those are, but I do know those are being considered. I think CYMPO has a great opportunity. We've been talking with the Dignity Health Hospital, the Yavapai Regional Medical Center we have in our region, and talking with the CEO, Dr. Anthony Torres, who I've met with, had a meeting with, and I've also included the city of Prescott in that meeting. Our most recent meeting included Dr. Torres and his executive team, and included from the city of Prescott, Joe Baines, Ian, and probably a few others that I'm neglecting, and then CYMPO staff. But All this to say, the focus of the meeting was around making the improvements to the intersection adjacent to the Prescott Hospital location. We're all familiar with that very busy intersection, and we need to acknowledge the city of Prescott and their efforts over the years. Gwen, Ian, and the city of Prescott has continued to work at that intersection to make it safer. With that said, I think we all agree it's still a busy intersection. There's still need for improvements. It is the hospital's request, if you will, that they want to partner with CYMPO and the city of Prescott and ultimately see a pedestrian bridge at that intersection. The hospital, through their own initiative, has hired a design firm in Kimley Horn, and they've done some preliminary design work. That intersection for a pedestrian bridge, just on preliminary work, is sitting around $4 million. All this to say, it is my recommendation to you and then on to the executive board that CYMPO go ahead and put in a request to Senator Kelly and Senator Sinema's office of this congressionally directed spending opportunity for a pedestrian bridge. I have already been in communication with all of your managers. Again, Town of Prescott Valley, City of Prescott, the county, Chino Valley. Sorry, John Dewey Humboldt wasn't represented, but you were at the managers meeting, so you heard about this. With that said, all I've received so far is positive thoughts, positive thumbs up. You know, no one's raised any concerns. However, I'm continuing the conversation here today. I'm very much open to questions, challenges, comments, but everything I've received to date has been a positive support to move forward. It is my intent, hopefully with your support and the executive board, again, let's be clear, to apply for congressionally directed spending to support a pedestrian bridge adjacent to the hospital at the intersection. It's 4 different street names there, but it's right next to where the employee parking lot is and the farmer's market on Saturdays. That's the intersection we're talking about. Again, I think this is an opportunity to seek funding. The process is, in my opinion, relatively straightforward. Just in wrapping this up, we were successful 2 years ago in requesting of Senator Kelly. I requested $400,000 for a design concept report for improvements on 89A, and he was supportive of that and was able to get that apportioned. Last year, we put in for some transit vehicles. We made through the first round, and then we got pulled out in the second round. So we do have experience. I feel with the partnership and who's involved in what we're doing, this is also positive. I would say if this does fail, we're still at the table with the city of Prescott and the hospital to continue to seek solutions to improve this intersection for all involved, but most especially pedestrians. So long explanation, happy to take questions or comments. Madam Chair, Heather has her virtual hand up, just to let you know.
Sure does. Heather?
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the TAC. Right before this meeting, I was actually on the webinar for the congressional direct spending, and they were talking about all of these applications are due March 29th as of this point. So it's less than 2 weeks. Next week, they are holding individual webinars for each category to attend, and they just made a couple of highlighted points. And Vinny, you were correct. I think there's about 50 million, but it's split between Republicans and Democrats, so about 25 million, I believe. And it's only for nonprofits, and they do highly recommend support letters.
Great. Thank you very much, Heather, for that update. We do intend on attending some of the webinars next week, so all that's good to know. And yes, we are working on those letters of support as we speak. It's moving really quickly, so Madam Chair, happy to take other questions or comments.
If it's split between Republicans and Democrats, what about the independents?
Good question, Frank. We'll tap them too.
We
do have one of those. We'll tap whoever we can on that.
Okay.
So, good question.
Was it 2 years ago that Kristen Sinema and Kelly did a $2 million crosswalk or Is it last year or year before?
And Madam Chair, Mayor Hughes, good question. I want to say it was last year. I looked, to your point, John, there was in Tolleson, they supported a pedestrian bridge. I thought it was at 2.7 million. And they also supported 1.5 million in the city of Maricopa. So
it's a good thing to be aware of.
yeah, they do have some resume history where they support this type of thing.
To follow up on Vinny's views and mine, it's also nice that it's the largest medical provider in the state of Arizona looking to do this.
And I do want to be clear too to this group that I've asked the bottom line question. You know, we all want to see skin in the game from everybody involved, and the hospital's working on answering that question. My intent is the application to be for the full amount, but I do want to paint a picture that shows a narrative that the city of Prescott has fiscally contributed to improvements, as Ian has outlined to us. There's been a number of improvements, and I want to work, Gwen, with you and Ian to identify that and be able to tell the story. But I'm also pressing the hospital that, you know, that their contributions in this project are going to be vital.
Thank you, Vinny.
You're welcome.
Any other comments? Ian, did you have anything you want to add? Okay. All right. Looks like we need a motion for this one too.
I'll make a motion to recommend the executive board approve the application for the FY25 congressional directed spending.
Seconded. I thought Heather was going to.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item 12, review, discussion, and possible action to recommend approval to amend the FY 24-25 Unified Planning Work Program and the FY 22-26 Metropolitan Transportation Improvement Program, MTIP. Allison.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the TAC. Leslie, can you scroll down to the colorful table in the packet? A little bit further. Right there. So we are seeking amendments to our work program and our TIP. The purpose of these amendments primarily focus on the use of some HSIP funding, Highway Safety Improvement Program funding, that we have been notified of by ADOT. We have a balance of $122,000 due to project cost savings from the regional sign project that was conducted several years ago. So we have this funding available to us in FY24. It does expire by the end of FY24, so we're doing our best to find some good uses for it. We are proposing a few different ways to use it. We're looking to use 49,000 of it towards the crash data analysis project, and that is with the assumption that we'll have about 7 projects for the HSIP crash data analysis effort. So 49,000 goes there, and then 35,000 HSIP to the roadway safety assessment that we're conducting on State Route 89A, which leaves a balance of 32,000. We've gotten some newer information that kind of negates what we have shown in our packet here. Our original intent was to reach out to the county, since they have an existing HSIP project on Williamson Valley Road and Szynski, that left-bound turn lane, to see if we could maybe swap some funding with them, give them funding in FY24 to be repaid in a future year. But we've since learned from ADOT that that is not a possibility. We transfer the funds, but we can't work out a loan agreement. So that is a possibility if the county sees a need for those funds for that project. So that's what we're proposing to do. We're still waiting on answers from ADOT on whether or not we can use the HSIP funding for the crash data analysis and roadway safety assessment. We should hear back by next week. So if all goes well, that will be how we're proposing to use the funds. If we get a no, we'll need to use our own STVG dollars to fund those 2 projects, which we do have available for FY24. But unfortunately, we don't have any other safety-focused projects to put the HSIP funds toward in FY24. So I'll stop there if there's any questions. There's a little bit more to the amendment. Does So Leslie, can you scroll a couple?
A question in the back.
So the 49,000, if that works out, does that pay Greenlight to, is that what that's for? Are there, is it about seven applications? Is that how many we currently have going? Is that what-
Yeah, Ian, good question, Madam Chair, members of the TAC. Ian, so what I initially offered to you all was that CYMPO would sponsor one application per jurisdiction. Since then, again, not being able to identify something for Chino and Dewey Humboldt, I guess I've opened up the pot to say that if Prescott Valley, if you have more than one, we can pay for it. So we're banking, Ian. Last I heard, if something's changed, let me know, but you would end up having two. I think Heather in Prescott Valley has two, last I heard, and maybe Dan has two. So anyway, we're willing to pay for those if you're still on track for that. Yeah, that's our plan. And Heather has her virtual hand up, I believe.
Vinny, Prescott Valley has one.
Okay, great. Thank you for the clarification.
Leslie, can you scroll down a couple pages to the tip right there? So just noting here that we've added the Safe Streets for All Transportation Safety Action Plan to our tip that the town of Prescott Valley was awarded last cycle. And then one last page to show you at the very end. We've added this page, the projects to be considered for unprogrammed funds. In order to remain compliant with ADOT and Federal Highway Administration, we need to show that we do intend to use our FY24 funds. We're working on creating the scope and the budget for these plans here. So we haven't plugged in those exact dollar amounts into our tip yet, but we do intend to get that information as soon as possible. Just wanted to demonstrate that this is the intent of that funding.
And if I could, Allison, just to add to that again, please recognize that these are preliminary projects that we're just now initiating conversation on. So, some of these things like electric vehicles plan, again, we have yet to bring that to you, but that's our intent. That'll be after staff has researched more, will be one of our earliest steps to bring that to you. And then the other thing to bring to probably Frank's attention, but the whole group, is clearly we've been the last few years been talking about Highway 89 as a priority between 3 and 5 North. It is my very early suggestion to you as a technical committee that we pursue a design concept report, because the financial guesstimates have literally been verbal conversations, which is probably painful for our engineers in the room, but it's even painful for me as a planner when we're really taking a very considerable project and it's based on incredibly rough verbal estimates. And we are asking the state legislature to support this project to the tune of around $13 million. But again, the work that has been done to arrive at that number is beyond bare and minimum. So all that to say, I did identify this on this list today, that no matter what the state either apportions or doesn't apportion, it would be in our best interest to acknowledge what the real numbers are on that corridor. In talking with ADOT, again, we arrived at a $13 million project for 2 miles. I would estimate to get a design concept report would probably put us back around 250,000. But the end result of that would be to get the details of that corridor, ultimately a true number that we can all understand better. That is it really 13 million? Is it less or is it more? And moving forward, I hope Frank and everyone can agree to this and we can work towards that, if that's fair.
I would just add from Chino Valley's point of view, a little bit tongue in cheek, but you should expect tremendous support from the community on this design concept.
Thank you, Frank. I was trying to avoid any history of lessons learned, but absolutely. So, yes, we should. Thank you. I got it.
It was only 200 people.
Yeah, got it. All right, moving on. Any questions or comments, Madam Chair?
SS4A, I noticed you guys have money in there. Who's that? Does that money run to CYMPO or is it just tracked?
It's tracked in, yeah, any federal apportionments you all apply for, and if you get them directly, which is great news for all of us, but it is required to be placed in the TIP. So, I think that applies, the Safe Streets for All is that just Prescott Valley, right? And then the TA is
The TA
Prescott.
is Prescott, Chino, and PB.
Yeah, and we will need to identify those projects also.
We have already.
We have an SS4A, so once the agreement would be in place and the obligated funds, that will be bringing.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we've got an item coming on SS.
But
Yeah, we had our kickoff meeting this morning, so we'll talk about that project.
I think Ian brings up a good point that we've discussed from our side, that even though these aren't specifically CYMPO projects, because we have to track them, if we could have a better knowledge of them happening, it would probably benefit everybody.
Yeah.
Is that a fair assessment?
Absolutely. Thank you.
With our change yesterday with the HSIP, I sent an email to you guys confirming that the HSIP for the signal will fall off, and then I emailed you to let you know that it has come off. That's all.
Yeah,
Great.
yeah, we read the newspaper.
I said, because I figured that affects the city.
Yeah, and that's probably a noteworthy point. That traffic signal at Gale Gardner Fair Street was awarded through this program we're talking about today, the Highway Safety Improvement Program. So again, in order to get that traffic signal today, it's 2.5 years. I would estimate what we're embarking on for this next round is about the same. So I would strongly encourage all those in the room and beyond that are listening that pay attention to whatever the projects are. And if you don't like them, speak earlier than later, because on that one, we went a long time without hearing anything. So, yeah, so anyway, happy to take questions or comments.
I'm not seeing any, so.
So we'll need a motion, Glenn, and Allison made it very complicated. So if somebody just wants to acknowledge her words and be agreeable to that.
I make a motion to recommend the executive board approve amending the fiscal 24-25 unified plan work program and MTIP as presented.
There you go.
Well done, Joe.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously. Number 13, planning project updates. Bryn.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the TAC. Quick update, you guys got a really deep dive on the 69 corridor master plan last month's meeting from Lon Shi. And other than the fact that he is going to be convening a small technical review group, which may involve a couple of TAC members, I believe he's getting ready to approach folks. The technical part of the plan continues. If anybody hasn't done this yet, I'm going to keep harping on it. Please take our survey, use the QR code, or go to cympo.org/SR69. We continue to try to get additional public input on the 69 corridor master plan. Anecdotal stories and personal experience are welcome, and will all be captured in the plan. Next one is ACT UP. As you guys know, we've been in the public engagement phase of this plan, and we have a couple of events coming up. We're going to be at PV's Extravaganza on March 23rd with a vendor table and try to capture some additional public input. We're also working on appearances at the farmers market and Earth Day events in Prescott, which strangely on Earth Day Prescott's website, they don't have anything current. Does anybody in the room know anything about that? Joanne?
I know the next motion on this day. I would give him a nudge.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the website actually has 2022 information, so I'm not sure.
It might be a different address. Let me think about that.
All right, thank you so much. That'll be helpful. So we're pointed towards that as well, and just because spring is full of community events, we're going to be getting out there with our ACT UP crew and talk to people about bicycle and pedestrian facilities and what they'd like to see in the region. So about halfway through that plan now. And then transportation alternatives, of course, you'll, being members of our member agencies, know that you've applied for Chino Valley, Prescott, and Prescott Valley, each applied for a transportation alternative grant and were awarded. We are in the programming / IGA approval phase of that process. All of you did your project initiation documents, so thank you for that. If you haven't gotten the IGA in front of your governing board or council, please do so as quickly as you can. ADOT will invoice the project sponsor for the required local match once your IGA has been approved by your governing body. And they're hoping to have those invoices processed no later than March 31st. So we are getting kind of tight up on that timeline. If you haven't gotten through that full process, please be in contact with your project manager at ADOT. Any questions on TA program?
Not seeing any.
All right, that will do it for my updates unless anybody has any other questions.
All right, seeing none, we'll move on to item 14, Safe Streets for All project application updates. Brynn.
Also, thank you, Madam Chair, members of the TAC. As you are aware, the SS4A program, the 2024 round recently opened. During the meeting just recently, within the past hour, forwarded you all the NOFO from the USDOT. If you haven't received that or didn't save it, you've got fresh information at the top of your inbox with all of the deadlines and FAQs and eligible entities. The apps are open. Planning and demonstration applications can be submitted April 4th, May 16th, or August 29th. And then implementation applications have a single deadline of May 16th only. Keep in mind that the SS4A plan and applications are often based on safety action plans, and recall that our regional transportation safety plan that we recently completed with Greenlight Engineering does act as a safety action plan for the region. So you do have that basis for your application. With that, I'm going to flip it over to Michael because he recently attended an SS4A webinar and took a deeper dive.
Thanks, Bryn. And a lot of what Bryn has stated, I'll kind of reiterate probably in another form. I have a hard copy of a handout. Do they have it?
Mm-hmm.
They do? Okay, great. It's kind of an overview, page and a half of the Straight Streets for All project program. A lot of you are familiar with it. A lot of you have already gotten money from it. It is a hefty sum. It's a $5 billion appropriation over a 5-year period of time. Bryn touched on the deadlines, the April 4th and the August 29th for planning and demonstration grants, and the May 16th is the sole deadline for implementation. This handout kind of gives an overview for those of you who are not familiar with the difference between a planning and demonstration grant versus an implementation grant. At the bottom of the sheet, last year, in terms of implementation grants, both Flag and Phoenix got projects. And again, the totals were hefty. The federal funding for the Flag project was $9.6 million. The City of Phoenix project was almost $25 million. So Vinny had asked me, and this is completely for discussion and brainstorming, to think about potential implementation projects that could be, again, regional and CYMPO wide. And I came up with a couple ideas, and none of these may be smart ideas, but they're ideas nonetheless. They're at the back of this. I based these on two things. As Brennan alluded to, the Regional Transportation Safety Plan, you have to sort of back into what looks like it's an applicable project that we've already said we want to do. And I came up with a couple ideas that we could talk a little bit about or not. I thought about, trying to do something that represented all the jurisdictions, and maybe, I think more often than not, for a lot of reasons, Dewey doesn't really get much.
Right. You pretty well get that.
Yes, and a lot of it's the staffing and the time. Could we put something that would benefit everybody, and everybody brought projects forward? Like, one of the things I came up with was a mid-block pedestrian crossing project. I saw funding in the neighborhood of $5 million to $6 million from other jurisdictions. I was thinking potentially each governing district might come up with 2 places where this was applicable, or at least one, and CYMPO could be the applicant. That was kind of the idea. You can see the funding on that. Another idea I had is that maybe there's a collective submittal by CYMPO for shared use paths, that maybe each jurisdiction came up with a place where a shared use path made some sense. Single application from CYMPO that represented as many jurisdictions that were interested in putting in, and we would file the application. Those are just a couple ideas, and as I said, they could be good or they could be bad. And I would just open it up for comment. Ian?
So those are implementation.
Yes.
projects. And are we saying that the action plan that's currently underway will suffice?
That's what we're saying.
Okay.
That was the kind of idea, is that you would back into what the implementation plan says, and that these projects, in theory, we'd have to do a little bit more analysis, could be backed into. I actually have some supplemental information on the regional transportation safety plan. And there's discussions about pedestrian safety performance and ways you can enhance it, and medians and pedestrian refuge islands in urban and suburban areas are some ideas.
So would we need to identify the locations in the initial application?
Probably.
Yeah, and it should be based on the safety plan too. Again, I think right,
Yeah.
I think the last 30 pages of that safety plan, if I remember right, are specific project locations. Yeah. And one other, one other example too, and Heather's still on the line. So as we were doing the safety action plan, which is now done, the town of Prescott Valley, I think prior to Heather arriving, had made application of Safe Streets for All. And now Heather and her team are implementing it. But just to give you an idea of numbers, I think our safety plan for the whole region was around 300,000. And what the town applied for was probably 1.5 times our safety plan just for Prescott Valley alone. And now they're doing that using Safe Streets for All funding. And Heather, if you want to just let the group know, just I guess this kind of gives them a highlight, Heather, of remind me the cost of what you were awarded and kind of a general goal of that project, Heather, if you can share with the group.
Wow, thank you, Vinny, for putting me on the spot. So we have retained Kimley Horn, and you are absolutely correct. This was submitted before my arrival with the town. And I think at the time, town's staff management thought that the CYMPO safety action plan would be too high level to dig down into the weeds of, PB's concerns on their local roadways, their collectors, as well as their arterials, and have public outreach just with the PB residents in the area. So we're awarded that SS4A grant. We did go through our RFQ procurement process. We did award the contract to Kimley Horn, and I apologize. I don't know off the top of my head how much it's that contract is for. I can go back and look and send that to you. I thought it was for around 2 something, but I don't remember off the top of my head. And I do know that I believe we have a kickoff meeting coming up soon. And I apologize, I'm overseeing like 5 projects since I don't have a deputy director right now. So I'm getting them a little bit confused, but you're absolutely right. Our goal out of this is to really set the town of PV up to apply for future grants, not necessarily SS4A grant, but set us up for key improvements within the town limits.
Thank you, Heather. And sorry to put you on the spot there. I didn't mean to do that, but I think it was important for the group to understand there's many paths for you as an individual community to pursue funding, and then there's a path to work through CYMPO that you all should be aware of. And I'll use the city of Prescott. I know you just did this recent traffic study, but that may be an example. If you wanted to follow what Prescott Valley was doing and do a deeper dive, that's available. I guess my closing comment to all of us in the room is this particular federal program seems to have a problem, and the problem is a good one, that there's plenty of funding. And they are just keep reminding all of us that there's an opportunity here. We, I think, did the big step for all of you is we tried to start to narrow down project areas. And it would be great for you to open that up, look at it, and either way, talk to us, but pursue it for your municipality or work through CYMPO. And Michael's just starting to initiate with some of you what possible ideas are. And I want to dig into that more too.
Yeah, and I guess I focused a lot on implementation because this broad project was done. Since it exists, if there's ways to back into an actual project on the ground, I think there's real value to doing that since you've sort of checked the box. Does that make any sense? Or doesn't mean you have to do that. Maybe planning and demonstration is the way to go. I just think there's something to be said for actually getting something done and actually having it done on the ground in multiple jurisdictions under one grant.
Yeah, if you haven't been in the back end of that safety plan yet, the 30 pages
Check it
of
out.
potential projects, it's a good place to spend some time.
Yeah, and Ian and Gwen, if there's something out of our safety plan or your recent traffic study that, and look at what this is, and if you want to do a deeper dive on something, again, maybe that's could be a focus of a joint application together.
Ian?
If a concept like what we originally pursued, obviously there's a short time frame, relatively short. If they were interested in something like the crosswalk one, and the city's work order, what would that look like? Would it be something we do with the filter?
Probably.
I mean, I'm just curious. Have you thought about that?
Yeah, good question. I would say we have a couple different options. I mean, so far we've made the applications ourselves and are successful a few times of doing it. But ultimately, the award, Ian, would go to a consultant to perform the work itself, for sure.
That says 4A, it seems to me we did a demonstration, but the application was very short.
It is, there's not a lot to it.
Concise and very just 5,000 foot level. I mean, everything's just basically conceptual and then you define it as you go. So it seems like it would be something easy to put together relatively.
And the implementation application is not much different.
Yeah.
There is only, I just reread the program specs, and there will only be one award per entity. Doesn't say that your application numbers are limited, but as far as awards go, they will not award more than one project to an entity.
So again, CYMPO could be that one, but that doesn't negate if Prescott wanted to pursue in Prescott Valley and so forth. But again, we're offering, we didn't do it in the last round because we were working on the safety plan. And we would acknowledge we don't have to do it again, but the more I keep hearing about it is they're looking for projects to be awarded to. So.
I know we have a big interest in sidewalks in Prescott. It's been talked about quite a bit in the last year. We're doing an assessment through RAS of our pavement condition. At the same time, we're doing a sidewalk inventory. So we're hoping at the end of that, we have some good data to make an application for this money to start filling in some connectivity for safety, particularly in areas where we're looking at minor arterials and things like that where we don't have good connectivity. So that is a focus, that something that Prescott is looking at, but we're waiting for that RAS data to come in before we can make the application. So we'll keep watching.
Yeah, keep watching. And I think my encouragement too, Glenn, would be, because it is out of order especially for a planning organization to get ahead of our plans, but this is the one unique time where I might challenge us to just throw it out there, man, because to Ian's point, the application's so simple, it doesn't hurt to just go ahead and put it out there, even though we don't probably have a comfort level of some of our priority projects. Again, Bryn is in the middle of a bike head plan, so I hate to get ahead of that. But I also hate to miss one more season of funding.
Yeah, exactly.
So I know we're in a bit of a bind, but I would encourage Gwen, you and Ian, and talk to council or however you want to do it, but see if there is something that, what the heck, just throw it out there and see what happens.
And I think to Benny's point too, it's just kind of a once in a generation federal handout, good, bad, or indifferent.
Take advantage of it.
It's exactly right. Take advantage
Get
of
it while it's there before they change the rules.
it. Yeah, it won't be back.
Yeah, this is year two. This is year 2 of a 5-year transportation bill. So.
So if the, you mentioned a kind of community-wide application for CYMPO. So if we went back and we were interested, would we just reach out?
Yeah. Yeah, no matter what, and moving forward, I think we should all sit at the table and have the discussion and then decide from that. Again, if Prescott were to go on at their own, that's fine. But I think that communication, Ian, is key in helping us to decide what the CYMPO application is or what other projects where this ties in. So more communication, the better.
And I think Brent's point was a good one too, that over the next 2.5 years, we should think about if your entity, the city of Prescott, can only have one application, is there a way to get another project out of the city of Prescott under the auspices of CYMPO?
Yeah, sure.
It's like double dip, it's legal double dipping, which is kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah.
So.
Good call.
All right. Anything else?
That's it.
Okay, on to number 15, roundtable agency updates. So on the SR 89 effluent and widening project, the city passed a resolution, the council passed a resolution recently calling for more transparency from the public. So in addition to our typical process that we use, we've added a 15% design review, which will include 2 study sessions and 2 public hearings. We anticipate, we put out a request for statement of qualifications. It went out on the street last Sunday. If we get qualified applicants, we're hopeful to be back at council by late April, early May-ish timeframe to award a contract, and then we would anticipate 12 to 15 months to hit the 15% concept design, because we will have more than one option for the council to consider. So that's where we're at. Our RSOQ is posted on our website now because it's out for RSOQ, and that's about where we're at. Any other questions on that? Mm-hmm. Heather, would you like to give us an update on the Glassford Hill Road project?
Sure. So Glassford Hill Road project from 69 to Long Look. We are 99% there. We were supposed to do the final striping this week, but because of weather, we pushed it to next week. And then we'll close out that project. Now from Long Look to 89A, we've already met with Kimley Horn and did our 15% concept review. Made some revisions. We just received 30% plan submittal last week. So we're currently reviewing those and we'll get comments back to them by, I think, March 28th or something like that. So we are moving full steam ahead on that project.
Great. Thank you, Heather. John, do you have any updates?
Just waiting on ADOT to fund the roundabout.
Oh, yes, the 169 roundabout, yes.
I guess I could sort of give an update on that.
There's not much to say, is there?
I don't know, there's a lot to say, John.
And yes.
But I could say public. I want to say rough numbers, we have about $12 million for the project, which was interesting at point because a couple years ago, when we were able to get about 3 million, we thought that would be plenty. And now I'm talking to ADOT and there might not be enough in there. And I guess that's concerning and troubling altogether, but the cost of doing business, we all know, has shot up tremendously. But that roundabout, just in a preliminary conversation, is sitting around $9 million, if not more. So I'm doing some digging into it though, because there is some money that was transferred early on that we were not aware of, and that's unfortunate to the project. So we need to stay on top of it. So I'm glad you brought it up because we need to continue conversations with ADOT to keep that on track. And right now, I don't know if it's quite on track. So.
Thank you, Amy.
Frank, do you have any updates?
Nothing too much. We've got a few local pavement pres or pavement rehab, hoping to fix our horrible streets, I guess you could say. I kind of joked when they were talking about passable by a two-wheel drive vehicle that some of our paved roads, our citizens would argue with that. But we've got some projects being advertised. We just awarded bid on a water and sewer extension project that'll bump right up against Highway 89 at Perkinsville Road. So you might see a little traffic control there. And just trying to catch up, I will say that we lost a project manager to Prescott, but now we've got one replacement, and he's actually a former ADOT employee, Bruce Cooper, for those of you that know him. We managed to snag him out of retirement for at least a little while. So hopefully that'll help with some of our coordination with ADOT and other agencies. He's got a long history in the area, so hopefully that'll help us with some of our projects. So that's about it.
Okay. Anybody else? Project updates? All right, then we'll move on to federal and state updates.
Andy's not here.
Yeah. So should we table that one?
Yeah, you can go to Ruth though, because she knows everything on day 8.
I think it's in the packet in some of the updates.
Oh, Andy's is?
I think so.
It might be.
If not, I can go. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the TAC. So for our updates, I do have a few. Starting with our 5-year construction program. So on March 1st, we did release our tentative 2025, 2020 through 2029 5-year transportation facilities construction program for public review. And it is posted on our website for public comments, which will end at 5 p.m. on May 24th. The State Transportation Board is also expected to adopt the final 5-year program at its June 21st board meeting. And then we also have options for public comments made available through a few different ways. Through our public hearing at the State Transportation Board, information can be found on their website, as well as completing an online comment form at our website. We also have an email available, as well as a bilingual phone line, and then, of course, through mailing. And more information is also posted on our website for all of that. And then in terms of our TA program, there is a recommended list of projects that was passed at the State Transportation Board in November, and the award letters were distributed to the agencies with the following TAP projects within the CYMPO region, being the town of Chino Valley Pavine, did I say that correctly? Peavine. Trail South Connection, and then we also have the town of Prescott Valley, the Prescott Valley Shared Use Path Network, and then the city of Prescott, State Route 89, the Deepwell Ranch Road multi-use. And let's see, for our ADOT SMART program, just continue to work with your local agencies to submit any applications. It's also posted on our website. And then we have the federal discretionary grants. Similarly, you can use the USDOT's website or ADOT's grant coordination page for the no frozen deadlines. And then I have the status of our ADOT studies for the electric vehicle infrastructure plan. ADOT has released a request for proposals for deployment for the first phase of EV chargers along the initial alternative fuel corridors. And then a detailed map is also included in the RFPs, and proposals are due on April 19th. We also have more information available on our EV plan website. There's also a mailing list if you'd like to subscribe. For our statewide ITS architecture update, ADOT is currently updating the ITS architecture plan. It's an application of electronics, computers, and communications to manage transportation systems and assets more efficiently, with the main purpose being to ensure that transportation technology investments are planned, developed, and deployed in a coordinated and consistent manner across the state. So the revised technical memo number 3 for data collection has been completed, and the consultant is in its later stages of revising the technical memo for number 4, being interconnects and information flows in the Arizona statewide ITS architecture. Next, we have our passing lane and climbing lane prioritization study. Kimley Horn Consultant has been selected for this, and they are currently working in the preliminary analysis of relevant roadway and traffic data from the ADOT GIS team. And then lastly, I have our statewide truck parking plan. It was completed with presentation to the State Transportation Board on November 17th. with public comments being addressed in December 2023. And the final document with more information can also be found at our website. And the top priority truck parking projects being I-10 Burntwell Rest Area at milepost 86, and then the I-40 Meteor Crater Rest Area at milepost 235. Our program for design build and our current 5-year construction program. And those are the updates I have.
Thank you.
I will apologize. What I was reading was from the minutes of the last meeting. So a little behind.
All right, well, if we have no further business, this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you all.
Thank you, guys.
Good meeting, everyone.